Have you ever stared at the ceiling in the middle of the night, phone in your hand, thinking, will my mind always be this noisy? Have you ever wished there were just one sentence, one clear instruction that couldn't angle your anxiety, your overthinking, your endless emotional storms? Welcome back to the channel, my friend. Thank you for being here again, willing to sit through another long, honest, heart-level conversation. Today we are going to walk slowly into one of the most famous ideas in Buddhist wisdom, often translated as let your mind arise without clinging to anything. People sometimes hear this line and think, so if I just stop caring about everything, all my problems will disappear, right? Others repeat it like a slogan, but the moment real life hits, all their worries come rushing back. In this episode, we are going to explore what this teaching really means for an ordinary person who still has bills to pay, relationships to manage, deadlines to meet, and a mind that does not come with a mute button. We will talk about why we worry so much, what not clinging actually looks like in daily life, why letting go is not the same as running away, and how you can begin to practice a mind that is clear, awake, and free even while you are right in the middle of chaos. So let us start from a very familiar scene. It is late at night. The city is quieter than usual. You are lying in bed, but sleep does not come. Your body is tired, but your mind is wide awake, racing. One thought grabs another like a chain. What if I lose my job next year? What if my partner secretly stops loving me? What if my parents get sick? What if I never become the person I want to be? You turn over, you pick up your phone, you scroll through social media, looking at other people's lives. A part of you knows that this only makes things worse, but you cannot stop. You compare yourself. You judge yourself. You feel left behind. Somewhere deep inside, you hear a faint voice saying, stop clinging. Let go. Do not hold so tightly. Maybe you once read that spiritual line about not letting your mind stick to anything, but right now it feels distant, almost cruel, like someone standing on the shore telling a drowning person, just relax. So let us be clear, when ancient wisdom says, do not let your mind cling, it is not telling you to become numb. It is not telling you to quit your job, throw away your responsibilities, or pretend you do not care about your family. It is pointing to something much more subtle and powerful, a different way of relating to everything that passes through your life. To understand this, we need to look carefully at what worry actually is. On the surface, worry is about specific things: money, health, love, status, the future. But underneath, worry is a particular movement of the mind. It is the mind grabbing onto a thought, squeezing it, playing it again and again like a broken song. It is the mind trying to control a future that does not yet exist by endlessly rehearsing it. You can see this when you look closely. Imagine you have an important meeting tomorrow. You think, what if I mess it up? That thought appears for a second and then could disappear. But instead of letting it pass, you hold it. You start imagining different ways you could fail. You imagine your boss's face. You imagine colleagues whispering. You see yourself standing there, frozen, not knowing what to say. Your heart beats faster. Your stomach tightens. Now you are no longer thinking about a future event. You are living inside a movie created by your mind. And because you believe that movie completely, your body reacts as if it is real. This is worry. From the point of view of wisdom, the problem is not that the first thought appeared. The problem is that you let your mind stick to it, bite into it, and build a whole world around it. That clinging is what creates suffering. So when the teaching says let the mind arise without clinging, it acknowledges that thoughts, emotions, and situations will still appear. Your mind will still create images of the future, memories of the past, and stories about yourself. The key is not to stop them entirely, but to stop gluing yourself to them. Let us bring this down from philosophy into a more human story. There was a woman we will call Lily. On the outside, her life looked successful. She had a decent job in an office, a partner who cared about her, and a circle of friends. But inside, she lived in a permanent state of what if. If a colleague spoke to her with a serious face, her mind instantly thought, they must be unhappy with me. Maybe they are planning to replace me. If her partner replied to a message a little later than usual, her mind said, they are losing interest. I am about to be abandoned. If she saw the small ache in her body, her mind whispered, what if this is something serious? What if I get a terrible illness? What if I become a burden to everyone? Every day was like walking on cracked ice, waiting for disaster. One afternoon, after a particularly stressful week, she fainted at work. Her body simply could not handle the pressure anymore. She woke up in a hospital bed, hooked up to a monitor. The doctor told her, your tests look mostly fine, but your stress levels are very high. If you keep living like this, it will damage your health. For 2 days, her phone was taken away. At first she panicked. Without constant scrolling, without checking messages, without reading the news, she felt naked, exposed. But slowly, something interesting happened. Lying there, staring at the plain hospital ceiling, she began to notice her mind more clearly than ever. Thoughts still came. Of course, what if I lose my job because of this? What if people think I am weak? What if something serious is wrong and the doctors have missed it? But because she could not distract herself, she had to simply watch them. She noticed that each thought had a beginning, a middle, and an end. It rose, hung around for a while, and then faded, like clouds in the sky. She realized that the thoughts themselves did not stay forever. What stayed was her habit of grabbing them, undating fuel. In that quiet space, something softened. She remembered a phrase she had once heard in a talk, let the mind move, but do not move with it. At the time it sounded mysterious. Now, watching her own thoughts appear and disappear, it suddenly made sense. Her mind could throw images and stories into consciousness, but she had a choice whether to believe them, whether to follow every single one. She did not have to be the slave of every idea that flashed by. Over the next months, Lily began a simple practice. Whenever a worrying thought appeared, she would silently say, I see you. Just those 3 words. No judgment, no argument. Then she would bring her attention back to something real and present, the feeling of her feet on the ground, the sound of nearby voices, the sensation of air entering and leaving her nose. Sometimes the worry came back 5 seconds later, sometimes 50 times in 1 hour. Each time, she would repeat, I see you, and gently return. In the beginning, it felt frustrating. She thought, this is not working. I am still worrying. But slowly, she noticed a subtle shift. The first change was in speed. Before, a single thought would snowball quickly into a full disaster movie in her mind. Now, there was a small gap between the first thought and the next. A thin slice of space. The second change was in intensity. The thoughts still came, but they felt slightly less solid, less completely true. It was as if their volume had turned down from a shout to a loud whisper. The third change was in identity. Previously, she had believed, I am a warrior. This is just who I am. Now she started to see that worry was something happening in her, not the deepest truth of her. Thoughts were visitors. She was the space they appeared in. This is what letting your mind arise without clinging looks like in practice. It is not an instant miracle. It is not one sentence that magically deletes all anxiety. It is a way of training yourself, moment by moment, to see thoughts as thoughts and feelings as feelings, without turning them into prisons. Imagine that your mind is like a clear sky. Thoughts, emotions, and worries are like clouds. Some are small and fluffy, some are dark and heavy. When you cling, you behave as if the clouds are the whole sky. When a dark cloud passes overhead, you believe that the entire universe has become darkness forever. When you practice non-clinging, you begin to remember that behind the cloud there is still sky. Even when you cannot see it clearly, you know it is there. You let the cloud pass. You do not try to grab it, fight it, or paint it a different color. You simply let it move. But what about responsibility? Does this mean that if you have a real problem, you just sit there watching your thoughts and never take action? Absolutely not. Non-clinging is not the same as non-action. You can still plan, decide, and work hard. The difference is that you do those things from a calmer, clearer place, instead of from blind panic. Think of a fire. If your house catches fire, you do not sit in meditation and say, "Everything is empty, nothing matters." That would be foolish. You get water. You call for help. You run to safety. But even while you are doing those things, there can be two very different inner states. In the first state, you are screaming inside, "Why is this happening to me? This should not be happening. I cannot handle this. I am cursed." The fear and rage in your mind make your body clumsy. You forget steps. You make mistakes. You may even freeze. In the second state, you feel fear, but you do not cling to the story it tries to tell. You allow the emotion to be there, but you focus on the next necessary action. You know that panicking internally will not help. You know that in this moment, the most compassionate thing you can do is stay as clear as possible. The outer behavior might look similar, but spiritually, they are very different. The second state is closer to non-clinging. Now, you might be thinking, "That sounds beautiful, but my worries are not abstract clouds. They are real. I really might lose my job. I really might face illness. I really have relationship problems." How does this teaching help with actual pain? Let us walk slowly through that. First, we have to accept a simple but uncomfortable truth. A large part of our suffering does not come from what is happening, but from what our mind adds on top of what is happening. You get an email from your boss asking to talk tomorrow. That is the event. One line of text. Your mind then adds, "They must be unhappy with me. Maybe someone complained about me behind my back. What if I am going to be fired? If I am fired, I will not find another job. If I do not find another job, my whole life will collapse." Within a few minutes, your body is reacting as if you have already been kicked out and are living under a bridge. But right now, in reality, nothing more has happened than an email. That entire nightmare was built by clinging. Non-clinging does not promise that your boss will never give you bad news. It does not promise that life will always be smooth. But it does prevent you from torturing yourself 20 times in your imagination before anything even happens. Second, non-clinging allows you to respond wisely when something painful truly does occur. Let us say the worst case does happen. You lose the job. Your relationship ends. The test result is not what you hoped. In that moment, pain is natural. Shock, sadness, confusion, anger, fear. All of this is understandable. Non-clinging does not tell you to deny those feelings. It invites you to experience them fully without building a permanent identity out of them. Instead of thinking, "My life is over," you might think, "This is a very hard chapter." Instead of thinking, "I am worthless," you might think, "Right now I feel broken, but feelings are not the whole truth about me." Instead of thinking, "This must not be happening," you might think, "I do not like this, but it is happening, and I will find a way to walk through it." Can you feel the difference in weight between those inner sentences? One set nails you to the floor. The other set allows you to breathe and move. In daily life, one of the most direct ways to practice this is to pay attention to the extra words your mind adds after events: always, never, forever, everyone, no one. These are usually signs of clinging. He always ignores me. I will never succeed. This feeling will last forever. No one understands me. When you hear these words in your own mind, you can gently question them. Is it really always? Is it really never? Is it really forever? Almost always. The honest answer is no. That little bit of honesty begins to loosen the grip. Third, non-clinging also applies to pleasant experiences, not just painful ones. We easily seek clinging when we are suffering, but we cling just as strongly when we are happy. We have a good day and immediately think, "I hope this feeling lasts forever. I do not want anything to change." We fall in love and think, "They must always love me in this way." We get a promotion and think, "Now my status is secured." When life inevitably changes, as it always does, our clinging to the pleasant turns into bitterness. Non-clinging suggests a different attitude. Enjoy what is good fully, but do not demand that it stay beyond its nature. When a joyful moment comes, receive it like a gift, not like property. When it passes, thank it and let it go, knowing that nothing in this world stays fixed. This is not cold. It is realistic love. Imagine sitting at the edge of the sea, watching the waves. Some waves are small, some huge, some crash loudly. Others barely reach your feet. You enjoy them. You feel the water. Listen to the sound, watch the light. But you do not try to grab a wave and keep it in your hands. You know that its beauty lies in its movement. Life is the same. Non-clinging means learning to love the waves without trying to own them. Now let us bring in another story, because stories allow us to see teachings in motion. There was a man named Jason, a successful project manager in a big company. He prided himself on being in control. His calendar was carefully planned. His goals were clear. He believed that if he just worked hard enough and made the right decisions, he could shape his future exactly the way he wanted. Then, in 1 year, everything unraveled. A global economic shift caused his company to collapse. He lost his job. At the same time, his father became seriously ill, needing full-time care. The savings he had built began to melt away. He tried to fight reality. He stayed up late every night, submitting applications, sending messages, calling contacts. When no good news came, his mind started spinning brutal stories. "I have failed. I should have seen this coming. My life is ruined." He could not sleep. His body hurt. He snapped at his partner and siblings. He felt as though life had betrayed a secret contract. One evening, after yet another unsuccessful interview, he went to visit his father in the hospital. He was tense, ready to complain or stay silent. But when he walked into the room, he found his father awake, looking out of the window with a gentle expression. After some small talk, His father turned to him and said, "Do you know what has kept me calm these days?" Jason shook his head. "Every time the pain comes," his father said, "part of me wants to fight it. I want to shout, 'Why me?' But I know that makes everything worse. So I tell myself, pain is visiting. It will come and it will go. I will not give it extra power by clinging to it. I will take the medicine, follow the doctors, and let each moment be what it is. No more, no less." He smiled and added, "It does not make the pain disappear, but it makes it bearable. It keeps my heart light, even when my body is heavy." For a second, Jason wanted to argue. He wanted to say, "But your illness is unfair. My job loss is unfair. Everything is wrong." Instead, he sat quietly, watching his father's face. Here was a man whose body was full of discomfort, yet whose eyes were more peaceful than his own. Something inside Jason cracked open. On the way home, instead of turning on music or podcasts to drown out his thoughts, he drove in silence. He watched his mind jump from one complaint to another, one fear to another. He noticed how often the words "should" and "must" appeared in his inner monologue. "I should not have lost my job. My father must get better. My life should be back on track by now." It dawned on him that he was not suffering only because of the events, but because of the rigid story he was telling about how life was supposed to be. He had been clinging, not just to his job, but to an image of himself as always in control. That night, he sat at his desk, closed his eyes, and tried something new. He said quietly in his mind, "This is how my life is right now. I do not like it, but fighting reality in my head will not change it. I will still send applications. I will still care for my father, but I will stop telling myself that this should not be happening. I will let this moment be what it is." It was not a magic spell. His circumstances did not change overnight, but his relationship with them did. He still woke up some days full of fear. On those days, he would sit for a few minutes and watch his thoughts, just as his father watched the pain. Each time a future disaster image appeared, he mentally labeled its story instead of truth. He asked himself, "What can I actually do today?" And did that, instead of trying to control what might happen 6 months from now. Slowly, his nervous system calmed. His interactions with his family softened. He became more present. Interestingly, when he showed up for interviews from this calmer state, people sensed it. He no longer radiated desperate panic. He radiated grounded honesty. Eventually, he did find a new job. It was not exactly what he had envisioned, but it fitted the person he had become. Looking back later, he realized that losing his old job had not ruined his life. It had shattered his illusion of control. Yes, but it had also introduced him to a deeper way of living, one where he could face uncertainty without being totally destroyed by it. This is the hidden promise inside that ancient line about letting the mind arise without clinging. It does not promise you a life without storms. It promises you the possibility of being a different kind of sailor, one who can stay balanced even when the boat is rocking. So how do you begin training this kind of mind in your own life, especially if you feel like a chronic overthinker, someone whose worries seem glued to them? You can start very small. Choose one daily activity as your practice ground. It could be brushing your teeth, walking from your door to the bus stop, washing dishes, or making your bed. Decide that during this activity, you will practice not clinging. As you brush your teeth, your mind will throw up thoughts. Remember to send that email. What if I am late? Why did she say that yesterday? Instead of grabbing each thought and following it, you simply note these and return your attention to the sensation of brushing. Feel the movement of your hand, Feel the taste. Feel the contact. As you walk to the bus, your mind might say, I forgot to reply to that message. What if they are upset? I still have that big task. I am already tired. Again, you notice worrying thought. Then you bring your attention back to the feeling of your feet touching the ground, the air on your skin, the sounds around you. You are not suppressing thoughts. You are training yourself not to immediately merge with them. At first, you will succeed for maybe 1 second out of 10. That is fine. Every second of non-clinging is like a tiny push in a new direction. Over weeks and months, those tiny pushes add up. Later, you can expand the practice to moments of emotional intensity. Your partner says something sharp. Instantly, your mind might shout, they always talk to me like this. They do not respect me. I should defend myself right now. Instead of automatically shooting back, you can take one breath. In that breath, you'll notice the heat rising in your body and the story forming in your mind. You do not deny your hurt. You simply give yourself one small pause before reacting. That pause is non-clinging in action. It creates the possibility of responding instead of attacking. It might turn a fight into a difficult but honest conversation. Or imagine you are waiting for medical test results. Your mind is producing dozens of frightening scenarios. Every time a thought appears, you say to yourself, future movie. Then you ask, what is actually happening right now? Perhaps the answer is I am sitting in a chair. I am breathing. I do not know the result yet. It is okay not to know right now. You do this again and again. Gently, patiently. You are not trying to become a stone. You are trying to become someone who lives in reality rather than in mental horror films. Over time, you may notice that your fundamental relationship to life has shifted. You begin to see that thoughts are not facts. You begin to see that feelings are not permanent identities. You begin to see that control is much smaller than you believed, but also that peace does not depend on total control. You still plan, love, work, and dream, but you hold all of these more lightly. You know that clinging to any of them as absolute is a recipe for suffering. In spiritual terms, you are learning to live in the middle of the world without being owned by the world. Your mind becomes like a clear mirror. It reflects whatever stands in front of it, but does not cling to the image when the object moves away. As we move toward the end of this long reflection, I want to speak to some parts of you that may still be doubting. Maybe a part of you is thinking, all this talk of non-clinging sounds nice in theory, but my pain is too heavy, my past too complicated, my mind too noisy. I want you to know that non-clinging is not an elite practice reserved for monks on mountains. It is meant for people exactly like you, people who lie awake at night wondering how much more they can handle, people who scroll through their phones to escape, people who sometimes cry quietly in the bathroom so others will not see. Every moment of noticing and letting go, even if it is messy and imperfect, is already walking the path. Another part of you may fear that if you stop clinging, you will stop caring, that without your anxiety, you will become lazy or indifferent. In reality, the opposite usually happens. When you let go of obsessive fear, you actually have more energy available for real care. Worry drains you. Presence empowers you. When your mind is not spinning 24 hours a day, you can respond more effectively to what is needed. You can think of non-clinging as shifting from tight care to open care. Tight care squeezes, controls, and suffocates. Open care breathes, trusts, and supports. If you are a parent, for example, clinging might look like trying to micromanage every aspect of your child's life. constantly imagining terrible futures if you relax even a little. Non-clinging looks like doing your best to guide them, setting clear boundaries, and then accepting that they are their own person. You remain available, but you do not try to live their life for them. One more part of you might say, if I stop clinging, what will be left of me? That is a deep and important question. Non-clinging is not about erasing you. It is about discovering what in you is deeper than the restless mind. When you stop holding on to every passing thought as me, you begin to sense a quieter, more spacious awareness underneath. That awareness does not come and go with moods. It is there when you are happy, sad, angry, confused. It is the space in which all those experiences arise. Living from that awareness is what many traditions call awakening. It is not a supernatural state. It is a very natural way of being that we have simply forgotten. Learning to let the mind arise without clinging is one of the most direct doors to that awakening. Before we close, I would like to invite you to a small experiment today or tomorrow. Choose one worry that has been visiting you often. Maybe it is about money, about health, about love, or about your future. Instead of trying to solve it mentally for the 1000th time, try this. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Let the worry thought come. Feel it in your body. Notice what story your mind starts telling around it. Then, gently, say to yourself, this is a thought. This is a feeling. It is not the whole truth of reality. I will return my attention to this breath, this moment. You will need to do this again and again, but that is all right. Every repetition is a brick in the new house you are building inside. If this conversation resonated with you, if it gave you some comfort or a new angle from which to look at your worries, I would be very happy to hear from you. In the comments, you are welcome to share one area of life where you feel most caught by clinging. Is it relationships, work, health, self-image? How does your mind usually tell that story? And have you ever had a small experience of letting go, even for a second? When you share your story, you are not only helping yourself, you are lending strength to someone else who might be reading silently, thinking they are the only one who feels this way. If you would like more long, slow, story-based explorations about worry, awakening, karma, compassion, and the art of living with a clearer mind, please consider subscribing to the channel, giving this video a like, and leaving a thoughtful comment. If you feel especially connected and wish to support this space more deeply, you can also consider becoming a member. Your support helps keep these extended reflections alive in a world that is constantly rushing toward quick answers and short clips. Thank you for staying all the way to the end. Even if your mind still feels noisy, even if you do not feel peaceful enough, the very fact that you have listened this far shows that something in you longs for a freer way of being. That longing itself is precious. May you learn, day by day, to hold your life a little more lightly, to let thoughts come and go without becoming their prisoner, and to discover within yourself a quiet, steady awareness that no amount of worry can ever truly damage. Every person carries a certain energy. Your focus, your dreams, your purpose. Bracelet is a physical reminder of that energy. Symbol you wear daily, that pushes you to stay grounded, balanced, and aligned. If one of the bracelets caught your eye, you can order it through the link in the description and check more powerful styles on our homepage store. Choose the one that strengthens your journey.